Hello and welcome to the second annual Grand Big 12 and Tulsa Bowl Preview Extravaganza. This year, featuring Utah and Texas Christian University. How this works is I pick the winners, not the scores, and I give you my somewhat unbiased opinions on why they're going to win. I'm going to do them in chronological order, so here we go. Oh, and down here in the lower third, you're probably going to see pop-ups come up with the day and time for the games. But I got to move quickly, so here I go. The San Diego County Credit Union Poinsettia Bowl, boy, that used up a lot of time, featuring Texas Christian and Boise State. Now, Boise State's got a little history, and I'm surprised they got left out of the BCS. But Texas Christian's been a really scary team this year. Only other team besides Texas to have held Oklahoma below 45 points. So I'm going to go with the Horned Frogs. Next up, we have the Valero Alamo Bowl featuring Northwestern and Missouri. I looked at both the schedules, and nothing about Northwestern impressed me at all. Missouri, they did win the Big 12 North, even though the Big 12 North was nothing compared to the Big 12 South. So I've kind of got to give Missouri a little nod on this. I'm going to go with them. The Pacific Life Holiday Bowl featuring Oregon and Oklahoma State. The Pac-10's not having a good year this year, and Oklahoma's only 3 losses were to the 3 who tied in that rock, paper, scissors situation in the Big 12 South, that being Oklahoma, Texas, and Texas Tech. So I'm going to go with the Cowboys to win this one, and I'm feeling pretty secure in that. The Insight Bowl featuring Kansas versus Minnesota. Again, Minnesota's part of the Big Ten. The Big Ten hasn't been having that great a year, and better to go with the devil you kinda sorta know than the devil you have looked at and aren't very impressed with. So I'm going with Kansas. Excuse me. The Conica Minolta Gator Bowl being contested between Nebraska and Clemson. Again, even though Nebraska's barely been bowl eligible, Clemson barely bowl eligible themselves. Nebraska was 7-5, and I looked at both of their schedules. I saw more on Nebraska that I could recognize as actually being something worth talking about rather than Clemson's. So I'm going to go with the Huskers. The AT&T Cotton Bowl, and here's where things get hard because we have Texas Tech versus Ole Miss. Ole Miss, they have one feature win against current SEC champion Florida, and really, that's all they got. They don't really have that much else. As for Texas Tech, though, they've got a pretty big gripe for being left out of the BCS because the head-to-head didn't matter when it was the 3 teams going into the Big 12 title game, so really something had to be done there to break the tie, and unfortunately the BCS was it, which is why Oklahoma got the nod. But Texas Tech, now with Oklahoma out of the picture, being automatically in the championship because of winning the Big 12 championship and having the best BCS ranking, Texas Tech really has a gripe for being out of the BCS picture because they beat Texas head-to-head. I'm sorry, Texas fans, but it's something we got to remind you of. And I think they're kind of mad about that, so I'm going to give them the nod over the Rebels, even though I hate Texas Tech and have declared cannonly against the Red Raiders for all eternity. I'm going with them anyway. Now we get into some of the BCS bowls. Starting with the All-State Sugar Bowl. Utah versus Alabama. You know, if they wanted to embarrass Utah, why didn't they put them up against the number 1 or the number 2 or heck, even the number 3 teams in the BCS? You know, Utah Texas would have been, I think, a better matchup for them, for Utah, and Texas would have had a darn good game too. But I think Utah should have been in the national title game anyway, simply because, hello, they're undefeated. But instead, they're fed to Alabama, which I take as a thinly veiled attempt to embarrass Utah, like Hawaii got embarrassed by Georgia last year. And honestly, I don't think it's going to work. I think that I think that Utah's going to beat Alabama because I don't think the SEC's really been that tough. Next, we have the Tostitos Fiesta Bowl being contested between the aforementioned Texas and Ohio State. Texas, mad because they got left out of the national title hunt, even though it was perfectly legitimate if you think about it, versus a team that, honestly, I have no bloody idea how they got into the BCS in the first place. But that's the way the BCS works. You know, mysterious things happen when you're dealing with the beyond comprehension system. Regardless, Utah, uh, Ohio State is co Big Ten champions, I believe, with Penn State, even though they lost head to head to Penn State. So I'm going to say that Texas not only beats Ohio State, they obliterate them. Taking a break from the BCS Bowls, we have the GMAC Bowl featuring Tulsa and Ball State. I've looked at the records and I've looked at their schedules. Both teams, Tulsa and Ball State, played a lot of quote-unquote directional state universities. So there's not really anything impressive for both of them. So when in doubt, go with the records. Tulsa is 9-3. Ball State undefeated. Ball State gets it. Last but not least, the FedEx BCS non-playoff related national championship, aka Orange Bowl B, as opposed to Orange Bowl A, which is Vatech and Cincinnati, which is not worth a mention here. Featuring Oklahoma and Florida in the national title game. And it may be a controversial pairing, but I think it's probably the second best pairing that the BCS could have come up with. The best being Oklahoma versus Utah. I would have loved to see that. Honestly, I'm not scared of the mid-majors like some Sooner fans are. Boise State is not an expletive in my mind. But, you know, the game we've got, Florida and Oklahoma, it's going to be a good one. We got two Heisman Trophy candidates going up against each other. So it's going to be balls to the wall, epic fun, and I am going to go against the Vegas line here, even though Vegas only does lines to encourage betting, not to actually predict the outcomes of games. I'm going to go against Vegas and say that Oklahoma will win in a shootout. And that's all I've got as far as bowl predictions go. We'll come back here in the middle of January, see how I did. I'm hoping to go 6-4 because it's the exact opposite of what I did last year. So we'll see how it goes. Until next time, this is Jeremy, and have fun watching those bowl games.